there, my name's Ian McMillan.
Hello, folks, and welcome to sunny South Yorkshire. It's a lovely, great day out there, but I guess most of us are just stuck locked indoors. My name's Graham Walker. I'm the JPI commercial content editor, and we've got something very, very special again for you today. We had about 20,000 people watching our last stream, so come on, guys, let's get sharing this, and let's do even better. Because I've got my old mucker, and I'm going to bring him in here. I've got Ian McMillan. Hi, Ian.
Hello, how are you, Graham?
I'm very good, thank you. You're looking a little bit short these days. Can we get you? Come on, that's better.
How's that? I'll sit up straight.
How are you anyway?
I'm very well. I went for my early morning stroll this morning at about 5:30, like I always do. There was nobody about. It was quite a poetic stroll. If you follow me on Twitter, at Ian McMillan, you'll see that every day I post my early stroll, see what I can see. And then I came back and I've just been sitting, writing and reading since then.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, we've just been saying just before we went live, my wife's a primary school teacher and she's been saying she's been that busy that she doesn't know how she managed to fit work in. I think a lot of us are feeling a bit like that.
It is a bit like what people say when they retire, isn't it? I mean, this feels a bit like, in a strange kind of way, what it might be like to retire. You're sat in your house, people ask you to do things, you end up doing them. It's a weird, weird thing, as everybody keeps saying, what strange times we're in.
It is. And do you know what, Ian? It is strange, but it's absolutely wonderful, as we said last time, to be able to actually have this kind of engagement with people. We had some wonderful reaction to the last one. We're going to tell people what this is about, so I'm just going to put to let people know. So this is about Poet in Lockdown, and this is you've been appointed by Barnsley Museums to write sonnets and poems during the lockdown period, so that people can absolutely keep these for generations to come. It's an observational piece, really. But in your own words, just explain a little bit more about it and how people can get involved.
You're right about the observation. It reminds me of that thing they did in the 30s, mass observation. The idea is that people are going to observe what's happening to them in these very odd times. So the museum asked me to write some sonnets. I thought I'll have a go at writing sonnets because they're not an hard form to do. It's a 14-line poem in various different disciplines. And they said, let's write 2 sonnets a week. So that's what I've been doing, writing 2 sonnets a week. They go live every Tuesday and every Thursday. So tonight we get a new live sonnet at 8 o'clock on the Barnsley Museums and the Hear My Voice website. We'll give details out to that. Another one on Thursday. But also, I think the main thing is we're asking people to send in their own poems. And as you said, we've had some fantastic work sent in through Twitter, through Facebook, through email. It just shows that in these times of actually sitting down, locked down, people aren't just sitting down, they're actually sitting down with the pens and the keyboards and writing things, which is a great record, as you say, a great observation of what's been happening.
They are, Ian, and we've actually got quite a number of poems that I think you're going to read out for us as well. And we're also going to get something brand new from yourself that you started in the stream earlier.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, can you just tell me about the fact is you're going to give tips and other things as well. And in fact, I'll tell. We can talk about that in a minute. What I'd like to do first of all is I just want to put a little clip on. This is of something that you've been doing to tell people how you want people to get involved.
Okay.
Hello, Ian McMillan here again. I've been writing some more sonnets in response to the crisis. This time, I've been writing what they call Petrarchan Sonnets. It's got 14 lines like before, but this time the rhyme scheme is ABBA, ABBA, CD, CD, CD. Easy to remember if you've got some ABBA CDs. Have a go at writing one. They're not that difficult. And actually, if you don't completely obey the rules, I won't tell anybody. Have a go.
I'm on my way, my one permitted stroll. I pass the winding wheel from the old pit, then take a moment just to stop and sit and taste the air that's so good for the soul. I think about the year the shaft's dark hole was silent and no miners went down it. And now and then feels like a perfect fit. Two parts of history form a kind of whole. That strike year meant so many dogs were walked further than ever, and pitmen got the sun on their broad backs, and everybody talked of how this made us feel we were all one. Well, now's the same. Coronavirus knocked. We barred the door till it had been and gone.
So, Ian, that was just to show people what you've been doing on Twitter, and I'm just going to remind people as well, if we've got some hashtags here as well. So, if you go onto the Hear My Voice Barnsley, or BSLY as it is on the screen there, that's where when you do a new sonnet, that's where people will see, and they'll be able to hear more and see more of you. Tell me what's happening.
Well, what happened is they can see the new sonnet at 8 o'clock. They can also hear me reading it out. They can also get a little kind of introducer, explainer from me, telling them about the kind of sonnet that it is, because we're trying all kinds of sonnets. Tonight, it's a Spenserian sonnet. I don't want to go into that, but it's a bit more complex than a Shakespearean sonnet. And we're going to, I'll tell you what, by the time this is all over, we'll know more about sonnets than Shakespeare. We'll be, if I get asked onto Mastermind, which I never will, but if I get asked onto Mastermind, my specialist subject will be sonnets, I'm telling you.
Well, you know what we were saying? Sir Patrick Stewart has been becoming famous for his sonnets online, and we were saying if you're going to do these twice a week, who knows how long this is going to last? You'll probably end up writing more sonnets than Shakespeare.
I think I will.
Sir Patrick Stewart might be actually he might be reciting your poetry before the end of this. He might need them.
That's the thing. That is the thing.
Well, we have got a number of poems that we want to share with people. But before we start with that, Ian, could you just give us your latest one? Because you've done something rather special. You started it during the last stream.
Yes, I did. This is, we were talking about how you might build a sonnet. And I just thought of a line, the bird song seems so loud these lockdown days. And so I just wrote about that. And it's a Shakespearean sonnet. See what you think. The bird song seems so loud these lockdown days, with fewer chalk marks drawn across the sky. And keep the distance, everybody says. But like those birds, we wish that we could fly above the virus, look down at the map and see our quiet town, the lonely streets, a solo walker, small beneath his cap, and couples far apart on wayside seats. The patterns history marks on fields and woods remind us that time turns like a pit wheel, and memories held back will return as floods. We'll shake our heads and say, was that all real? Yes, real as birdsong, dancing in the air. And our song is, think on, stay safe, take care. There you go.
Wow, well, lovely, and what poignant words as well. I mean, they say you should write about things that you know about. You're immersed in this. We all are. And I suppose writing at this time is the best time. And in tips for people, if you're going to write about it while it's happening as well. You can retrospectively do it, but it must actually touch a different nerve while you're doing it at this time.
I think if you're doing it and you're immersed in it, then the writing is more vibrant, more real, more immediate. There will be times after this, in years to come, when we'll sit down and write things with the benefit of hindsight. But I think the writing that's done in the moment, in the kind of the heat of what's happening around us, is much more powerful. So we'll see. And then in a few years' time, we'll write poems about it with the benefit of hindsight, which is a great benefit. But the poem written in the crucible of the moment is a fantastic thing, I think.
Well, I'm just putting a slide up here to remind people there's an hashtag here, Poet in Lockdown. So this is run by Barnsley Museums and its museum service, and Hear My Voice as well, which is a great campaign in its own right. Ian, just explain that before we start looking at some of the poems that's come in.
Well, Hear My Voice was just a thing. It's been going for 3 years now, and the idea is that we wanted Barnsley people to raise their voice in poems, stories, songs, plays. We know that Barnsley people have a great voice, but quite often a lot of people in Barnsley's voice is ignored in terms of creativity. So the Hear My Voice project has been a fantastic thing. It's been going for 3 years now, and it's got lots and lots of people writing poems, making poems, performing poems. And Hear My Voice is the perfect title for it, because we're asking people if they can hear their voice, and yes, we can. So yeah, that carries on, which is a great thing.
So I'll just put this slide back up there just to remind everybody about the hashtag, and I just want to give a bit of a shout out to people who are watching. So I've got Sue Arpham, we've got Cheryl Cooper, we've got Vardy Heedy, we've got lots of people down here, and Alan Lazenby, goes on and on and on. Frank Corley is saying, Ian, I've started writing lockdown sonnets. The first is Mother's Day 2020. And we've got Dan Holmes who's saying, wicked, mate. Sounds like John Cooper Clarke.
That's me. John Cooper Clarke with grey hair.
Hey, but you've got, Ian, I was going to say, at least you've got hair. But, but there you go. So in terms of the poems that we've got, I think what we ought to do is take a look at some of them, and then probably you could give us a few tips, Ian, about writing poems on it. Definitely. And then after that we'll look at some more. So I think we've picked about 10 that have come.
Yeah, we have.
I've actually got the words here. People can follow them as well. So we'll try and do a combination of all that. So who do you want to start with, Ian? Is it Tim Morton?
Tim Morton wrote one called Distance Learning. Shall I read that one?
Yes, please.
And it's just about the fact that, it's got a lot of clever words in it about poetry. Distance learning. A rhyme about this time when we can haiku, but not hike. When we commute our commute and commune in our communities, we join social media, not social gatherings, making a virtue out of our virtual reality. A second stanza, but don't stand still. When 2 meters meet, please remain 2 meters apart as we learn to become meter readers. If you stand by me, I'll say to you, don't stand so close to me. Horizons and lives are foreshortened. I can't see you when I'm in I see you. We all live with 6 degrees of separation and see each other through a glass darkly, logging cases on a logarithmic scale. Or was that a rhythmic scale as we hide inside, listening to Haydn, seeking calm? And when we come to the full stop, however much land we've got, we'll only need a 2-meter plot. That is such a good poem by Tim Morton. Starting off with the idea of just playing about with words. We can haiku, but not hike. We commute our commute and commune in our communities. That's got a fantastic rhythm to it. Then he says, don't stand still. When 2 meters meet, remain 2 meters apart. So he's playing with language. And that very moving last couple of lines. When we come to the full stop, however much land we've got, we'll only need a 2-meter plot. The idea that at the end, wherever we go, we're buried in a 2-meter space. Fantastic poem that by Tim Morton, I think. Yeah,
no, just wonderful. And if people want more of these as well, if they look at that hashtag Poet in Lockdown, they'll find them. And there's lots of these online, isn't there?
Oh, there is. So I try Rob Townsend's poem.
This is Rob Stay Home Townsend. There you go.
That's not his real name, I don't think, but yeah, this is a sonnet. And it's a Shakespearean sonnet. It's called Lockdown Love. These long quarantine days, contemplating lost touches, contact that they loved and now crave more than oxygen, hot hearts aching like they've never known, the cruelty of how houses now stand apart, a Montague for every Capulet about town, torn away from a lover sweet and true, cannot avoid the pain of locking down. But that was before they aimed through the days, remembered all bad things come to an end, realised that they will once again gaze into real eyes, not needing to pretend. Parting isn't so sweet, only sorrow, but you'll see your sweetheart one tomorrow. Very nice sonnet, that. The last two lines, rhyming sorrow and tomorrow, is good. And then in the second bit, he talks about a Montague for every Capulet about town. So he's talking about Romeo and Juliet. And it's about the idea that when we are locked down, you know, you think about the people you love. And as Rob said in his tweet, making things with words is new to me, but it's quite addictive, isn't it? And he's right. Once you start writing this kind of thing, you can't stop. You'll do 5 sonnets before breakfast, I'm telling you.
Do you know what, Ian? I mean, we've only had 2 of the 10 poems that you're going to read out, but I mean, already there's a book in this, isn't there, surely?
I think so. I think there's a book that will be a real record of its time, a book that'll tell people, you know, what it was like in this time. I'm going to try another sonnet now. This is by a guy called Phil Sparks. Have you got Phil there?
I have, yeah.
This is his Petrarchan sonnet. He talks about it being inspired by the current extraordinary situation and its complexities. It's called Bad to Verse, which is a good title. The TV's on, the news is due up next. I'll watch it, though I really don't know why. Sad families recount their last goodbye, while MPs blandly read their blameless text. I've stayed at home and double locked me door, and yet, as yet, the virus hasn't broken through. It's strange, when nothing's what you've got to do, it still feels rather like a phony war. Of course, I know it's real, and who's not scared? We're all at risk from this capricious curse, so play your part and make sure you're prepared, because as things stand, they still could get much worse. Just bear in mind, you're someone who's been spared if you've the time to put this into verse. That's got such a lot of power, that poem of Phil's. I love that bit about, I've stayed at home and double locked my door, as yet the virus hasn't broken through. And then that last couple of lines again. The great thing about a sonnet is the last 2 lines can really hit you. Just bear in mind you're someone who's been spared if you've the time to put this into verse. In other words, if you're not ill, if you're the person who can sit and write a poem, then you're not as bad as you could be. Going back to Shakespeare, there's that great line in King Lear, this is not the worst if we can say this is the worst. If you can still write poems, then you're doing all right. Very good poem, that by Phil. I'm so pleased, so happy with all these poems that are coming in. I'm going to be able to retire, Graham. More poems.
I've just had Tim Morton on who's actually just saying thank you so much for reading my poem and for your kind words, Ian. We're getting lots and lots of people who are watching this, and I think we're inspiring a lot of people, Ian, as well. And you know what? There's nothing better than being at home to actually turn to a new hobby as well, is there?
That's true. I mean, that you can't go out fishing, you can't go out playing football, you can't go out playing cricket. You may as well sit at home and write a poem. And also, if your other hobby is, I don't know, woodwork or knitting, if we've got some knitters, why don't you write a poem and knit it into a jumper? If you're into woodwork, make a poem and actually make it into your piece of wood. You know, the great thing about a poem is it can be anywhere. I'm sure it can. Can I read another poem here? This is by Mark Granger.
You can. Well, I just wanted to say to people that if you've not started from the start of this live stream, please share and like it with all your family and friends. I think this is a great campaign by Barnsley Museums to promote the arts and culture, not least of all through poems. And of course, this is as it says on the sign I put down here, this is about poet in lockdown, and I can't think of a better person to have to be our poet in lockdown than Ian McMillan. And so, Ian, what you're doing, we've called out to people to say, put an hashtag on social, send in your poems. And they've done it. I mean, we're getting loads coming in here, enough that we're definitely thinking about a book, aren't we? I'm going through a few of them now. So do another one, maybe do another couple, and then we'll probably then have a look at and also do some top tips that you might be able to do.
Sure, yeah, definitely. All right, so this one's by a guy called Mark Granger, and it's not a sonnet, but it's got a lovely rhyme. It's called An Idea to Solve the Housing Crisis. Mark works in an office. We thought work was a place, a building, or a space where we sat in stifled stupor, lashed to a computer. But now, like us, our office block has shed its shirt and tie and slipped into pajamas with a sigh, no longer on the clock. For we've heard that work is not a place, but a verb, untied to time or space. And we've turned our homes to offices. So why not pull off the swap by making homes from office blocks? Clever poem that, Mark. You know, he's right. We're all sat at home, all these empty offices, lots of people without homes, swap them. And again, just the cleverness of the rhyming in there and the cleverness of the ideas. A poem like this can hold ideas. For we've heard the word that work is not a place, but a verb untied to time or space. And it's true. Before we thought we had to go to work, now it seems that work is just the thing you do. Very, very good poem, that, I think. I'll read one more and then we'll see how we get on. This is this one by Joe Fearon. Now, Joe sent this in, again, the hashtag Poet in Lockdown. And this is just about, it starts off with a reference to Wordsworth. When he, shall I cut? No, it's not. It's somebody else. Shakespeare. Sorry about that, Graham. I was caught up there. Yes, it's Shakespeare, who says, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Well, Joe has done this lovely thing about being stuck in the house. Shall I compare this to another day? Cleaning, cooking, reading to pass the hours. Time to smell and look at trees and flowers. Turn off TV. There's nothing good to say. Memories found at the bottom of drawers. Tickets, CDs, photos can bring a tear. Living in the past, forgetting current fear. Must be a Thursday. It's time for applause. Bee pollen, Vic D and Manuka honey. Hoping it keeps my immunity high. Time to assess. How do I make me money? Time to reflect, change and stare at the sky. This tale may be light-hearted and funny, but when it calms down, we have to ask why. I'm sorry I forgot it was Shakespeare, but that's a great start to the thing. Shall I compare this to another day? You can do that when you're writing a poem. You know, start off like somebody else. And then just lovely things there. Tickets, CDs, photos can bring a tear. Living in the past, forgetting current fear. And that lovely line, must be Thursday. It's time for applause, because we all clap the NHS on a Thursday. So I would say, we've heard a few poems now. My tips would be to start with, have a notebook with you. I've always got my notebook. There's my notebook. I have my notebook with me all the time, because if an idea occurs, I write it down. Write it down in your notebook, text it to yourself, put it on Twitter or whatever. Once you have the idea, the poem begins to follow in its footsteps. So have the idea, write a couple of words down, couple of lines. Then what often happens is the poem can sort of marinade while you're not thinking about it. Rhymes will occur to you. Not all poems rhyme, obviously, but I find that rhyme helps with this kind of poem because it suggests a word you might not have thought of before. That often happens to me when I'm writing these sonnets. They'll be going in a certain way, then the rhyme that I've set up will suggest a word that I hadn't thought of before. And that's a really clever thing for your brain to do. I mean, it's nothing to do with you in a way. Your brain's doing it for you. So have a go, write a line down, keep your eyes on, look out the window. When you're on your daily walk, just spot stuff, overhear things, listen to people, look into gardens as you walk past them, look into buses, see who's on the bus. My brother watches the bus, he rings me up, he says, there's only 3 people gone past on X19. I said, look, write a poem. That's a great first line for a poem. There's only 3 people on X19. So it's a matter of listening, looking, but also making sure you write it down. And if the rhyme doesn't work, don't worry about it. The great thing about this is not to worry. So many people worry about writing a poem. They'll show it to me and go, this isn't a poem. I go, well, call it what you want. It could be a little story. I'm writing sonnets because it helps me to think. You don't have to write a sonnet if you don't want to. We're getting some really fantastic work in, and in a sense, it belongs to the people who've written it. I think that's the thing. So if it's not a sonnet, then I would say don't worry about it.
Yeah, and the other thing, Ian, what I wanted to say as well is that we are inviting people. I've just put the slide back up there again. I'm just going to remind everybody what it is. So this is if you're wanting to actually contribute, then it's Poet in Lockdown hashtag, and this is a fantastic campaign by Barnsley Museums through Barnsley Council and the Hear My Voice campaign, and all these, they are being recorded. Everything's being kept, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we're going to keep it all. We're going to have a fantastic archive. When this is all over, we'll have a living archive of what this crisis was like in Barnsley and beyond. So in years to come, PhD students and people doing academic research will not only look at the newspapers and the news, they'll look at these people's creative responses to this. So They always talk about journalism being the first draft of history. Well, I think that poetry is the first draft of history in this sense. So yeah, I think keep writing them, because we are going to be keeping them, and we are going to be using them, maybe as a book, but always as an archive, definitely.
I'm just putting some social media banners up here, Ian, as well, and I'm going to put yours up, because if you're not following this guy, follow him. So it's capital M, small c, capital M, ILLAN, Ian McMillan, and he's your early morning walks keep me going, Ian. I'll be honest with you. Is that your only bit of exercise a day?
Yes, well, apart from that, I go up and down the stairs about 100 times. But the great thing about the early morning strolls is they can be used for other things. There's a composer called Richard Barnard who's been setting my early strolls to music. He's had tenors and sopranos singing my early strolls with French horn or piano accompaniment. So yes, anything to do with them. And the early stroll really gets me thinking in the morning, gets me going physically because I'm walking about, but also it gets me thinking. That's the main thing about it. And also, to be honest with you, Graham, it's my best time of day. This is my worst time of day. 2:30 in the afternoon, I'm normally asleep on the settee watching Bonanza. But no, not really. But mornings are my best time of day. Shall we read a couple of more poems?
I think we will. Could I also just say that if and again, I'll just put the slide up while while I'm saying this. If there's anybody out there, who kind of wants to contribute poems, you can actually do it even while we're online. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to read all these today, but keep them coming. And if not, and any social media post, put them up there at hashtag Port in Lockdown. We have got lots of people watching us. What I would like to say is give us a shout out as well. Tell us where you're watching from. We had people watching from as far away as Ardsley to Australia, I think.
Hey, Ardsley to Australia.
On our last one, Ian. But yeah, we did get a lot of poems that have been sent in. If we don't mention your poem today, it's not because it's not good enough. It's just that we were overwhelmed, didn't we, in trying to pick out what we wanted to watch.
Definitely, so many.
So we've got some more. Keep them coming, folks. Who are we going to hear from next, Ian?
This is Jeremy Benson. Jeremy follows me on Twitter, and he sent us this Petrarchan sonnet, which is a kind of form of sonnet. And he says, the last line added several furrows to my brow, because he had to think really hard about the last line. So it's called One Form. The April weather's strange, warm breath one day, while next a bite of chill when evening nears. The sun hues redly, looking down on fears that shivering harsh unknowns may come this way. Each day's a new uncertainty. It may bring lockdown pain or loneliness or tears. And normal now, as darkening evening nears, are climbing totals distant people say. But me, I walk, fresh air upon my face. I head uphill like others keeping clear. Once at the top, I stop and conjure space. Look down, dark town is empty, windows fear. But up, bright sky reflects the human race. It's starry, ever changing, ever here. And Jeremy says he worked out of that last bit. You can tell that's a beautiful last couple of lines, looking up at the sky. But up, bright sky reflects the human race. It's starry, ever changing, ever here. Well done, Jeremy. I mean, that's a really, really good poem. And people can have a go at writing their poems. They really can. Work on it or just trust your first instinct, whatever. I mean, these poems work in that kind of way. I'll see if I've got another one here for us. Paul Brooks. Can I read Paul Brooks?
Yeah, no, Paul Brooks is local to us, I think, Ian, isn't he?
Yeah, Paul Brooks is from Wombwell. I've known Paul Brooks for many years. He's a very, very good poet. He works on the front line in that he works on a till in a shop, and he's very much interacting with the public. And this is called Step Over the Line, where he refers to himself as a social distancing Nazi, because that's what he is. It's called Step Over the Line. Line demarcated by the strip of plastic on the floor. Death loves an insolent swagger from the young, the bold and brave, the middle finger raised before his sharp teeth. I, who patrol the line, am a social distancing Nazi, you who whisper contempt for to your mate. So he's the one, he's going, look, keep your distance, keep your distance. Beautiful image. Death loves an insolent swagger from the young, the bold and brave. Because some people, sadly, are not doing the social distancing. And this is a poem saying do it, and Paul is the man in charge in his shop of making sure they do. That's a beautiful poem. It's only 6 lines. That's the other thing about a poem. Poems don't have to be long. Poems can be short. They can be 2 lines, 3 lines. I'm writing these 14-line sonnets, but these They don't have to be long. They really don't have to be long.
Well, talking about having long poems, we've actually got one from Carmen Marcus, I think, it is a bit long, but I think you're going to do a few highlights from it, or at least we mentioned people can actually look out for it and find it somewhere here.
Carmen is a fantastic poet from up in the northeast, and she sent me this one, and it's about the idea that because of lockdown, you can't meet your boyfriend or your girlfriend. The only place you can meet them is in the supermarket queue. So have a look at Carmen's.
She apologises for some rudeness, and bearing in mind that we are a family newspaper series here, we've edited
so
it a little
I'm
bit.
not going to read it out.
If people want to have actually look at it in all its glory, hashtag poet in lockdown, and if we check on your site at Ian M small c capital M I-double-L-A-N. It'll
appear. Carmen Marcus, and her Twitter is on the thing, so it's a lovely poem. Towards the end, it gets a bit X-rated, but that's all right. It's a beautiful, beautiful poem. Well done with that one.
We'll have to. I've just been thinking, we'll have to do an after 9 o'clock version of this, perhaps.
We will. We'll do it. We'll do a late night version. I don't encourage people. That would be an idea, though. I'm just going to see if I can find the penultimate one that we've got. No, this is another one. We won't play this. This is on video on YouTube from Lauren Scott Berry. And what's this? This is great because it's about not being able to write a poem. And people often write that kind of poem. They go, look, I said to them, look, write a poem. They go, well, I can't write a poem. So I said, well, write a poem about not being able to write a poem. So Lauren Scott Berry has written this poem about not being able to create one, and she's put it on YouTube. So it's well worth looking at. If you look on Lauren Scott Berry.
People to go. And what I wanted to say about that, Ian, as well, is that if you've got a poem, it's not necessarily you've got to write it down. You could do an audio recording of it,
yes,
or perfect if you want to do record it on your smartphone or whatever. You get it posted up there, and we'll share some of those. And in fact, we've got a very short one, I think, to finish with. It's a 30-second piece, I think, here.
Yeah, this is by Anne-Marie Sibiger, and it's called Rebirth. So shall we see that?
Yeah, so that's Anne-Marie, and this is her poem. So enjoy this, folks.
Suffered the wrath of the cruel, left in pieces of grief. I want a rebirth, a riot of butterflies to take me back to that air heavy with colour, muted sounds comforting, night steeped in the wonder of me mother's belly. Back to the beginning, naked in a church font, blessed in the morning light, mouths whispering promises to protect me, a baby up in arms, demanding only love.
Yeah, there you go, folks. So that was a lovely little piece there to camera, as you saw, and it was part of this Poet in Lockdown hashtag, and that was by an Anne-Marie Silbiger. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but thank you for the video. And if anybody else wants to send in their poems, then we'd love to see them as part of this series. And this again is about Ian McMillan, who's the Poet in Lockdown. And he's curating, I suppose, and writing some fantastic sonnets, but looking after everybody else's poetry interest. And he's been giving us some top tips this afternoon as part of this Barnsley Museums, Barnsley Council campaign through Hear My Voice. So, Ian, I think as we've just seen there, we've got some fantastic poets out there. And like you were joking a bit earlier, you've got to watch out, mate. Here, people are after your job.
Quite right too. Well, that'd be great, wouldn't it, if I had all these assistants all over the place. The great thing is that people can write poems. That this is shown by what we're doing here. My ambition, it's probably quite a big ambition, but my ambition is that everybody listening to this writes a poem. Everybody in Barnsley Borough, all 250,000, have a go at writing a poem. That'll make a long show for us, Graham, but that's what we'll do. My new sonnet will be launched tonight at 8 o'clock on the Hear My Voice and Barnsley Museum. Just have a look at that. You'll see the poem. You'll hear me reading it, and you'll see me giving a few tips. And the next one will be on Thursday. And then just keep writing your poems, keep sending them in. We are creating an amazing archive here of brand new work created in response to terrible times. It just shows that when things are happening, people will still go out and be creative, which is great.
I'm just again just going to put the the slide up that tells people what this is all about, Ian, and the hashtag again there, just to keep reminding people. We're getting some fantastic comments as well, and we've got lots of people watching from all over the world again. I'm just looking on the Yorkshire Post Facebook page where we're cross-posting this from the start, and we've got people I want to give a shout out to. Catherine Feather, and she's from Ayers Inlet Rural Australians for Refugees. I mean,
Wow.
Incredible where we're getting people from. Bob Tuffin, I'm an artist, he says. Jill Clough, we've got Kate Whitaker saying wonderful poems and scripts. Love it all. Thanks for hosting such special stuff. Alan Cauldry enjoying this from North East Thailand. Many thanks.
Great.
And also a big shout out to Emma Clayton. Lovely stuff, she says. Samuel Smith, this are getting serious. I'm getting more delirious about it, and I'll tell you what, it's true. It's a poem actually that we've got, Ian. So if you jump onto the Yorkshire Post Facebook page, you'll actually see that there. And Emma Clayton saying, what about it if you're an exile in Lancashire? Well, you know, we've all got our crosses to bear, Ian, but at the end of the day, we're all in this together, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll accept poems from people in Lancashire. We will accept poems. Will we not? Have we not accepted poems? Yes, we will. We'll have poems from people in Lancashire. We definitely will.
Fantastic. And just a reminder again, where can people see more of your sonnets? From tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, tonight at 8 o'clock on the Barnsley Museums Twitter page and the website and the Hear My Voice. You'll see them there at 8 o'clock. Another one on Thursday. And it'll keep going on for as long as this goes on. So we're going to end up with a fantastic amount of poems, which is great.
It is. And we've mentioned already there could be a book coming out of this. And I'm sure that, the book's going to get even bigger, isn't it, at this rate? But keep them coming, folks. We've got somebody special that we just want to give another mention to. I'm just going to put a picture of her up, and that's Eloise, who's who took over from you as the Barnsley Poet Laureate. She's actually working at the front line, isn't she? And she's working on poetry. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Eloise is a fantastic poet, and she's working for the NHS. She answers the phones on the 111, and she writes marvelous poems, and hopefully she'll be able to write us something which we can get on this site. So it's great to have an old grey-haired man like me leaving the post and having a young person who writes fantastic poems taking over. That's the great thing about Barnsley. Barnsley is full of poets, and the more of us, the merrier, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? I probably were pushing a little bit too hard, but I were hoping that we might have got something from her already. But these people are just working like Trojans.
Oh, they are.
Keep us all alive and safe. And it is all about staying home, staying safe, and saving lives, and not putting as such a massive burden on the NHS. And I think in the main, Ian, I think people are getting the message and doing that. And what a better way to do it than actually craft an hobby or start a new one. And as we've said, that's what's happening with poetry, isn't it?
Just sit there, write a poem. Just make sure you wash your hands when you've written it.
I have to ask Ian as well. There's a lot of people interested about what Ian McMillan's up to other than this. Now you've got your radio show, you've got your which you can tell us about. You've also got the Yorkshire Post column that you do every Saturday as well. Yeah,
every Saturday I do a column for the Yorkshire Post, 555 words of pure literary gold. I write them 2 weeks in advance. I sit in this room and write them. I have an idea. As you know, the idea is the main thing. If I have an idea, I write the idea down, then I just work away at it. I try and do a joke at the end. I try and have a bit of description in it, so I do that. I also have my Radio 3 show, which is on every Friday night at 10 o'clock, The Verb, which I record from this little room that I'm sat in at my house. So, yeah, I'm kind of ubiquitous. As people say, he's like Osmuck, that fella. You can't get rid of him.
We don't want to get rid of you. I'm also going to give a big shout out to somebody who's watching on the Yorkshire Post Facebook page, and that's Lynn Dunning, who actually runs a lot of the Barnsley Museum services. And what a splendid job they've been doing, Ian, what with the jigsaws and the 360 tours and the port in lockdown. I mean, it goes on and on, doesn't it? Barnsley's not, it might be shut down for a little while, but it's not going anywhere, is it?
I've heard their next plan is a 3D interactive Graham Walker jigsaw. A 360-degree interactive Graham Walker jigsaw.
It'll have to be a big box here.
That'll be a hit.
All right, folks. Well, listen, thank you for your time again, Ian, and thanks for joining us, folks, this afternoon. It's been wonderful, just a bit of respite on a beautiful day outside, to be inside actually doing something as wonderful as listening to your fantastic poetry, and the poetry of all the people who are contributing as well. Just another reminder, folks, if you get your poems into hashtag Poet in Lockdown on any social media platform. Twitter's one of our preferred choices, but you can go anywhere, and obviously on Facebook. And who knows, Ian, this might not be the last one that we do before this is done.
Well, I think we'll do a few more of these, definitely. I'm going to start wearing a tie, Graham. That's where I'm falling down. I ain't got a tie on.
You're falling down big time. I don't know if you saw this, folks, but here, look, we've got the tie on. You ought to keep some standards up here.
Oh, dear.
All right. Well, listen. Thank you again ever so much for your time.
Thank you.
Just going to remind everybody again with the final slide. This is Poet in Lockdown. Please keep your submissions coming on social media. Ian, isn't just a final word something that you'd like to say to everybody out there?
I'd say, well, stay safe, stay calm, and if you got a minute, just write a poem.
Yeah, that's just great advice, and I'll reiterate that. Stay safe, stay home, folks. Let's get through this as quickly as we can, and let's get back to normal. This is a kind of a new normal, and let's hope that part of your new normal is now writing wonderful poetry. Ian, thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hello there, my name's Ian McMillan.